Hi guys, both Brexit Hardman Steve Baker and his colleague Simon Hoare had a bit of go, and rightly so, at the DUP, who have been blocking the formation of an executive or government in Northern Ireland. What should have been happening is a budget being put together by the Finance Minister in Northern Ireland and a vote taking place on it. But instead, the UK government in Westminster has had to step in and be the adult in the room. Steve Baker here responded to comments made by the DUP, and his Right Honourable friend Simon Hoare explained how he wouldn't get away with such shenanigans in his constituency. Have a listen.
He accepts that there isn't a magic wand, but would he also accept that given the nature of the executive in Northern Ireland, which is a mandatory coalition, that we have had a Sinn Féin finance minister. I don't think any Sinn Féin finance minister has ever succeeded in presenting a budget which other parties could support. And that is one of the reasons why we're facing the kind of deficit we have at the moment. And indeed, the restoration of the executive makes it very, very difficult, given that you've got ministers who don't even attempt to reflect the spending wishes of the other parties in the executive.
I think he makes some very legitimate points. The particular point about mandatory coalition is, of course, an important part of the Belfast Good Friday Agreement, Strand 1, which we completely respect. And we are open to hearing suggestions for institutional reform which would deliver more stable government. But, of course, members opposite will know the difficulties in reforming the institutions. I think the government's very clear that any conversation would need to be led by the political parties of Northern Ireland and would need, in the end, to enjoy cross-community consent in order to be viable. And I give way.
Just to add a point to this, this is irrelevant to what Steve Baker is talking about. Steve Baker is presenting a budget for Northern Ireland because the DUP are refusing to go into government with Sinn Féin. And you have Sammy Wilson complaining about the finance minister from Sinn Féin. There isn't even a government at the moment. There isn't even an executive.
I'm grateful to my honourable friend for giving way. You'll probably know that the Select Committee was in Northern Ireland last week. What he might know, which I think endorses and underscores the point that he was making a moment or so ago, that the elections were some little while ago, an analogue time for a digital age, if you will. We were hearing from both traditions, from both communities, a growing sense of worry and anxiety on the impact on the quality of life, outcomes in terms of health and education and housing for ordinary people in Northern Ireland who look to their political leaders of all persuasions to deliver for them, and a growing sense of real anxiety and disappointment that they are being let down yet again.
I really admire Simon Hoare because he's a politician who actually cares about his constituents, and he cares about the constituents of Northern Ireland. He's spoken to voters on both sides, both the nationalist and unionist traditions, listened to businesses. He actually cares about the people of Northern Ireland. He cares more about the people of Northern Ireland than the DUP ever do. He's an old-style Tory, but he has a lot of experience. He has been on select committees, Northern Ireland committees. He understands what's going on, and he's extremely upset that that people are being abandoned because the DUP need to push through their ideology. They want to get rid of the Northern Ireland Protocol, even though it's an aspect of Brexit, a Brexit that they campaigned for.
Yeah, I think my honourable friend is spot on in what he says. I mean, I think if the situation in Northern Ireland presented itself in Wickham or anywhere else in Great Britain, there would be outrage. I mean, 21% higher spending than per head than in the rest of the UK, and not something I wish to repeat too often before it's noticed by my electors. With dreadful public services, as he points out, and about a budget which is not balanced, because of a failure to take really important strategic decisions. I mean, as I'll come on to, we're a number of years on from the Bengoa report, which said there needed to be transformation in order to maximise the quality and quantity of Northern Ireland's health services. And that transformation has not happened, and the public are suffering the consequences today. I think with that...
This was a bit of a dig at the DUP, but also the other parties in Northern Ireland. The fact that Northern Ireland receives more money per head of population than other parts of the United Kingdom. This is something that Brexiteers don't like. I've said this before. Steve Baker's a Brexiteer. Brexiteers don't like the fact that, parts of Northern Ireland are not pulling their weight economically. And I've said before that the Brexiteers would be happy to see Northern Ireland go. They see it as a waste of money, a waste of resources. The DUP should be very worried that Steve Baker's in charge. That they're fully on board with Brexit, but they don't seem to realise that Brexiteers are not fully on with the Union, not fully on board with the Union. They don't care about the Union. They would be happy to sacrifice Northern Ireland. Because, as I said, there are two types of Brexiteers. There are the racists and bigots, that brand of Brexiteer, but there's also the disaster capitalists. And if they see Northern Ireland as a drain on resources, they're going to cut it free. They're going to cut it loose. And the DUP, have got into bed with Brexiteers, not understanding that their focus is not the Union. It's about deregulation. It's about reducing public services. It's about cutting taxes. It's about reducing the size of government. Once again, the DUP really don't know what the hell they're doing. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what do you think about all of this? As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.